Fox News alert, the shutdown's off, Panda Cam back on. And those hundreds of thousands of furloughed federal workers are back on the job. To quote one of them, I kind of wish they would have kept us out until Monday. Jedediah Bila says this is proof it's time to cut down the federal government size. That really got to you, didn't it, that quote?
Yes, it did.
We could have stayed out until Monday.
Yeah,
you didn't like that,
I
did
could
you?
use a vacation too, you know, and get some back pay thrown in there. I'm happy to do that.
You think it's a bloated workforce?
800,000 workers. What private company do you know that has 800,000 workers that are labeled non-essential? They can't afford to do that. Private companies can't do that because they would go bankrupt. Well, guess what? That's what's happening right now. I have a newsflash for everyone. We are broke. We can no longer afford to sustain an enormous federal bureaucracy. It's bloated, it's overstuffed, and that's why it's not efficient.
Are you angry at the workers themselves?
I'm not angry at the workers themselves. I'm angry at the system. I think that cuts need to be made in every area. I don't think that Republicans can take defense and say, well, we're not going to touch the defense. No, there are areas of the Defense Department where there is excess, where there may be fraud and abuse, where we can trim it back and have it be more efficient. Look, we can't afford to do this. That's the bottom line. And we're going to have to consider every area.
But when, in this administration, do you expect that there's going to be a cutting in the size of government?
Absolutely
It's not going to happen,
That's not what they're interested in. They're interested in expanding the role of the federal government.
So if you wanted to cut the cost of government, you think the best way of doing it is not targeted cuts, 2% here, 100 people there. You think across the board.
I think you can have targeted cuts, but I don't think that any area can be off limits. I don't think Republicans can sit back and say, well, we want to address entitlements, but we don't want to address defense. No, every single area of the federal government right now needs to be looked at. We have $17 trillion worth of debt.
Sure.
We absolutely must acknowledge that today.
All right, 800,000 non-essential workers.
Right.
Given your druthers, Jedediah, how many would you cut?
Well, I'd have to look
Don't
and see.
say all of them.
I'd have to. No, I wouldn't cut all of them. Some of those workers are doing a necessary job, and I'm not saying we don't need probably a good portion of them. But I would wonder if maybe half of those workers are unnecessary, if maybe we could go in and see. You need to analyze the system. You need to go in and see who's doing what's being done responsibly, what's in excess. Are people sitting on the job and doing nothing all day long and then getting paid for it? We can't afford to pay. That's my money and your money that's paying for that.
It is. But isn't it in the nature of government to be somewhat bloated and wildly inefficient and heavily bureaucratic?
It's the way it is. It's out of control. And just because the way it is doesn't mean that that's working. That's why we have $17 trillion in debt. Look at Obamacare. It's expanding bureaucracy even further. Where are we? If that's our philosophy, if we say, well, this is the way of government, this is just the way it works, then to what end? When does it stop? Does it stop?
I don't have an answer for you.
I don't have an answer either. My answer is it absolutely must stop. You cannot afford to do this. We're going to be a country that's overtaken by government and bureaucracy.
When in the history of the United States of America, post-World War II, has there ever been a real shrinkage in the number of people who work for the federal government?
It needs to happen today.
But it hasn't happened before.
No, it needs to happen today. And do I think it's going to... Now, whether it needs to happen and whether I think it's going to happen are two different questions. It needs to happen right now. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think Paul Ryan's going to come to the table very soon and talk about entitlement reform. That's not going to go anywhere. This administration is not interested in cuts. Barack Obama told you he was interested in fundamentally transforming America. And what he meant by that was he wanted big government philosophy. He wanted more spending. He's doing everything he can to increase the power of the federal bureaucracy, oftentimes at the expense of the states. That is not going to change.
You cut education, for example, and you are demagogued to death. You cut agriculture, food stamps. You are starving children. You are wicked. You cut the Social Security Administration. Oh, you're being nasty to seniors.
Correct.
You pick any area of government, and there is a constituency which it serves, which will demagogue you to death if you try to cut it.
Correct, and that's why I've been telling the Republican Party to get right on messaging. Hire people now. Republican Party, hire 20 really good messengers that you can throw on television, and you can own these issues, own this narrative from the start. Offense, not defense. Do it today.
You're almost jumping across the set on me here.
It has to happen. I'm tired of the Republican Party losing elections because they can't message properly. This can be fixed. It can be fixed today. Get on it.
This is not the way you behave on Red Eye.
Well, you know, I throw a little spice on that.
Jedediah Bila, everybody. Watch out. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.